Hey, thanks for tuning in for another great conversation here on Strong Leader Development Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, you can catch every episode on your favorite platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So we'd look forward to you tuning in and on those platforms. We're glad you've joined us. I'm excited today. I get to visit with Tim Kinnaird. Um, and Tim, just give us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll come back and talk about how we know each other.
Cool. My name's like I said, I'm Tim Kinnaird. I'm from West Texas, currently residing in the Mid Atlantic, and so I work with the. We'll get into what the church looks like up here, about halfway between Baltimore and DC. In the meantime, I get to chase around my two boys, Theo and Lincoln, and actually, one of them is turning one in like 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And so, right now, a lot of fun moving parts, family visiting, that kind of stuff. And so my wife Amy and I are just really enjoying that as we kind of wrap up our time here, and we'll maybe get more into that in a little bit.
Yeah, you bet. Well, sure glad you're here, and yeah, how we know each other. And I mention this often on these interviews and podcasts that we know each other through the Crucible Project, a very powerful ministry that is a parachurch ministry. If anybody is interested in really finding out how they can be more powerful in the kingdom of God, join one of our weekends, thecrucibleproject.org. But yeah, and then you and I have been working together a little bit around you're becoming a leader in Crucible, as well as what you do every day in your church ministry. So it kind of brought us to where we are right now. You're about to got to transition back to West Texas. And there were some things about, yeah, what is my identity? I've been this ministry leader of some sort and helping with a church, and now I'm going to transition to something else. And yeah, who am I overall? So tell us a little bit about the transition that you're going to make.
Yeah, so I'll actually rewind just a little bit, give a little bit more
Yeah.
context. My as dramatic as it sounds, most of my life and all of my adult life has been leading to this work in some form or another. And so did our our training where I met my family and our team. And we found ourselves just kind of one chapter, the next chapter, the next chapter. And all of a sudden we look up and, hey, we need to start booking U-Hauls and job hunting and changing location and things like that. And so kind of looking around, it's like, oh, everything that I found identity in is changing or even being taken away in a way. And it's a lot of upside down in the transition time.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about the church that you've started and really what your role has been, yeah, all along in this.
Sure. So the church is, I describe it as a Venn diagram of a small church ministry and a church plant and then a revitalization effort. And so we moved here with a team to basically wear all the hats. And so I put on teaching pastor hat, put on executive hat, put on fundraiser, put on all these different things with our teammates. And so we're in a region that has a mix of all kinds of folks, all kinds of backgrounds, and just trying to plant our flag in the middle of it and doing all the things. And the transition, there's another layer of the transition of where our church is now is trying to hand things over to primarily lay leaders because they can't afford to hire somebody else to come full time afterwards. And so trying to equip and empower um, lay leaders to do the things we've been doing full time, where I judge we juggled juggled quite a bit. So that's kind of the context of where we are now. is not only phasing out and finding things, starting a new chapter for ourselves, but really our church is taking on a new chapter. It's like a real person. There's growing pains, and it's almost like the teenager leaving the house kind of deal. It's like they've got what they're in a good place. They're stepping into that new chapter of life, but there's some rough around the edges in that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, and within that, you you dove in. You became
Mm-hmm.
the multi-hatted pastor of that church, along with your team.
Yeah.
And there's some identity that's tied to that. Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about the identity that you have felt as you've been in that role.
In in summary, being the guy,
Yeah.
being the guy, being the contact point, being the getting it together, and frankly, probably on paper, not supposed to be the guy. We actually came for another purpose. Our goal was to come as a team and focus primarily on numerical growth and outreach and things like that. And long story short, is just the church wasn't in the place that we anticipated, and so our roles shifted, and so there were roles that were thrust upon, and there were roles that I grabbed, and there is a piece of I have to prove my worth here.
Mm, mm,
And that plays out in the context of, I didn't mention this, but we raised funds to live here. We live on support from other congregations in other regions. So it's like, man, I have to earn their support. I have to sell myself. I have to, or should. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, what does that mean whenever, man, people aren't responding to in the ways I thought they would? Um, People aren't running the way I judge they should. I'm not showing up. I can't juggle the things. I took on too much. I took on too little. It's just questions all over the place. Um, yeah, if this conversation feels raw, if you can pick up on that right in the thick of it. But yeah, it's like who am I when the things I found identity in are painful or changing?
yeah, yeah, for sure. And not only that, this proving your worth. Oh my goodness. I imagine there are pastors listening going, yeah, I feel like I've had to do that. I feel like I'm not doing much when really he's probably doing more or she's probably doing more than really is within the realm of who they truly are.
Sure.
But man, that feeling of needing to prove your worth, it is tough because and maybe some new pastors don't understand yet, ministry never ends. There is not like a product going out the door and you go, okay, we can take a breath. Uh,
Yeah,
it,
you don't clock out at 5.
no, no. And you feel like you got to answer emails at 11 at night,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And on Sunday.
Well, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, your time off is when you're up front. That's where it lands. But yeah, it's what I've noticed is interesting is expectations play into that.
Hmm.
And what maybe others will resonate with this. What I found in myself is everybody has expectations of that guy, of that role,
Yeah.
of that man, of the person up front, and whether they're spoken or not, the expectations are there. And what I found in this pursuit of proving myself worthy is, instead of filtering those expectations, I just stack them,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's I'm gonna and then stack them on top of the expectations I have here and the expectations from before, or the folks sending us, and all this, that, and the other. And so I'm proving my worth to 50 different standards. Yeah, it's it's a lot.
It is. It is. So when you're feeling that pressure of expectation,
Mm.
how much of that is the actual expectation of others? And then how much of that is your perception that they are expecting?
I'd say the majority is my perception. There's a perception of, well, again, just project. I want to bless, I want to help, I want to support and equip and do all the things. And yeah, and so there's a perception of they expect that too.
Yeah, yeah, very much. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting you in a space of, oh no, this is all about me, and we're going through a counseling session. But this piece of it is because there's some real
Yeah,
expectations too. I've mentioned this in other interviews and other times where I've spoken. This other half of church book written by Michael Hendricks and Jim Warner.
mm,
He talks about how congregations actually put this persona up on a pastor. They begin to put them up into a space that makes it hard for them to decide what their identity is. So there are some true expectations that people begin to put onto the pastor, and a pastor stepping into the role may not realize that's happening. Uh,
sure.
but yeah, you were about to say something there when I said don't beat yourself up too much of your perception of the expectations as well. So
Just an encouragement to men who maybe you're in a church planning circumstance, or a um like I said, ours is kind of a Venn diagram, but if you're on a mission team, it's a new work. There's not an elder team or a lead pastor or somebody executing or sending you out.
yeah,
And so I'm learning and trying to find grace for myself in that. Hey, you're making talk to myself. You're making these expectations in a void of authority
yeah,
because it's so new, and this is a new chapter. And so that's all it was. Is a little
yeah.
something that popped up earlier.
So what identity did you take on as you rolled through this? You didn't have you've got a set of loose authority out there because you're raising funds and they're paying
Mm,
money in, and there's an expectation with that. What's the church doing? We'd like to know how it's doing. Then there's the congregation itself. There are the lay people that it wasn't as far along as you thought. So there's some push in that. So what identity or identities did you take on?
yeah, I took on the do it all guy,
Yeah,
the jack of all trades. Very condensed story when we recognize, hey, the role we came for, I wouldn't feel an integrity to carry it out. And so we shifted as, okay, what do we do now? I just started doing, picking this up. Oh, this is what people appreciated before. What we can fire that back up, and before you know it, there's 5 or 6 different things going on, and so I can do that. I can do that. I can do. Oh, we're juggling pretty quick. So the do it all guy, the capable man. Um, yeah, that encompasses it. There's little ripples out of it, but
yeah,
that's a summary.
yeah. And I perceive you're a pretty young pastor, and so that do it all is something that when we're young we think, well, I'm capable, I can do this, and we just pile it on. Um,
Yeah.
but what have been the costs? What does that cost you to do that?
If we can be candid, there's been many, we've been here almost 5 years, and there's been many days where I have to convince myself to get out of bed.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm that's not melodramatic at all. I mean, it's cost mental health. It's my wife and I are in the best place we've been ever, because we've worked through the trials. So the trial, it costs that trial. Yeah, I'll stick with that.
yeah,
We'll go from there.
yeah. And your intention was, and you've said it, and most pastors feel this way, I'm helping people. I
Yeah.
am I am doing the kingdom work. And
Hmm.
that's what this is supposed to look like, yet it still doesn't feel there. Now, I know you and I both know, right? We get this head knowledge of understanding that God's going to put us in the uncomfortable. I
Sure.
really am convinced that as we look through the stories of the men of the Bible, we're going to be put in these uncomfortable places, and that's where God's going to do a lot of His work. And
Yeah.
so we deal with that some, but some of this, like not wanting to get out of bed. I mean, in ministry myself, there are days where I'm like, gosh, I'd really like to lay here just a little bit longer,
Yeah.
because I did that. I'm the do it all guy, took it on, and and yet it still, there's a cost to it, and there's a cost to who I am. So
Yeah.
we've got to balance, where is God, pushing, and where am I overdoing this, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you took it on as the do it all guy. Now you're about to transition out of this
Yeah.
role. Your time there, your season there has finished, and you're moving back to West Texas where you were trained, and probably
Hmm.
connecting back to that organization in some way, I would expect. Now you're looking at identity. What's going on in your heart as you begin to look at this transition in the next few months?
Oh man, there's a lot. Everything it feels kind of a swirl of man excitement of a new chapter. Um, my wife and I met in a program, the same one Tim Rush was mentioning in a recent release. And so there's always been a countdown to when we went to our internships, a countdown to when we were going to move to New Zealand. That's another story. A countdown to here, a countdown to when this is over. I'm excited to move somewhere and plant roots and not have a countdown. Also terrified. I have no clue what we're going to do work wise. Um, no clue social circles. We've been gone just long enough for to kind of start over in some of our friendships. Step it back into family dynamics. I've been uh, Geography's been a blessing, so stepping back into that, there's fear. Um, but yeah, and this conversations we've had and some work I've done in other circles, starting to figure out, okay, what are the parts of me that aren't dependent on context,
Yeah.
and that's been a really interesting filter as we look to making that transition. What is true now that will still be true there, regardless of where church we land in, what jobs we're working, regardless of all those other factors? What are the true core things? And that's been kind of a lens filter I've been looking at the next 5 months
Yeah.
just recently.
Yeah. How beautiful. What a great connection you've made. Context. Oftentimes, our context, we allow it to define who we are. Would that be accurate for you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. I am the fill in the blank,
Yeah.
and then the fill in the blank is gone. Oh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Um, and interestingly, God's putting you in a space of, all right, I'm taking some of that context away.
Mm.
Yeah. So, what have you learned so far?
Um, I didn't mention it earlier, but kind of circling back, what it's cost. There, those expectations, that weight, those things I took on that were maybe more different than what God was leading me to. Actually, it cost me the relationship dynamic with Him,
Hmm.
and so it's almost like He's inviting me to recognize, hey, you don't have to do the worth thing here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, learning that, even down to the very practical things of, man, I get to make my own schedule in a way that is unique and might not ever happen again. And I have a 5-year old who his world is upside down too.
Yeah.
And so even in the very specific, hey, the next 5 months, man, there's extra pouring in because this is a very foundational time in his life as well.
Yeah.
And um, so yeah, there's specific kind of action related to that. And there's also just this mindset, this recognition of what God is revealing, and almost giving this like daily bread, like just a little bit, and inviting a little deeper. And then I recognize in hindsight, oh, this is what all this is what all you're teaching. And so, he's showing, hey, you can, like, I'm an equiper and an empowerer.
Yeah.
I can do that in the pulpit, and I can do that plumbing.
Yeah.
I have a father's heart, and God forbid something to happen with my boys, that heart is still there.
Yeah.
And I can take that to them. I can take that to other places. And so kind of figuring out, all right, what are the things, and testing them against those contexts.
Yeah.
There's been some really, really cool stuff. But man, I've spent 30 years with all the other. And so this is all new.
Yeah.
and it's rough around the edges right now.
Well, yeah, but at least you have some awareness, which is awesome. I know that bless ministry leaders and pastors who keep grinding the context. And I thought you said it well. I'm an equiper, I'm a developer, and I have a heart of a father, and I can do that in any context. And that is huge. And you may discover some other identity pieces as you go, but you're already starting to work in those realms. That is just beautiful. And here's interesting: as you were talking about your 5-year-old, he has expectations of identity dad,
Yeah.
right? Because you
Yep.
identify as dad and want to be dad, right? And so he's got expectations. Oh, let me heap one more to do it all guy, right?
Sure. My 1-year-old's expectations are much easier to pull off. It's, crackers and
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But yeah, and wrestling with, man, every time I'm there, I'm not here,
yeah,
and navigating those as well. And so, yeah, it takes, there's an awareness piece, but then there's also, all right, I need to take that gold gift of grinding and put it at the place where it seems God is inviting me to, instead of the place that I think I need to go to earn.
yeah,
Right. And so there's that intentionality, and getting after it, but in the right way, in the right places, with the right fuel, is a transition right smack in the middle of it. I'm not going to pretend I'm doing it great,
yeah.
but right in the middle of figuring that out.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Um, yeah. And here's the thing: I was just visiting with a man this morning, a good friend of mine that we meet for coffee. Try to once a week if we can. And we're both in a similar space right now that we know there's something more for us, right? There's something
Mhm.
missing, and we're not looking closely at what we have done. We're already kind of bouncing off of that, and it's like, what's next? And God, where is it? And
Yeah.
I mentioned to him, I said, I think we have a Luke Skywalker syndrome. We're looking over the horizon for the destination. For
Mhm.
okay, when I land on the destination, everything's going to be fine. And
Yeah.
but we're in ministry. There is no destination,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And so how do you feel complete?
Exactly. And how close does that tie to what we think our identity is?
Yeah.
And if
Hmm.
I'm not complete, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Or if I'm not meeting the
My gears are turning.
expectations, yeah.
Yeah. It's not a task thing.
Yeah.
Definitely tender for, and recognizing the pull towards task guys. It's like, yeah, there's a blessing there, feeling complete.
Yeah.
And so now we have to find that complete somewhere else.
Yeah. For sure.
And so it's kind of cool that you have somebody in the same boat you guys can be across the table from.
Yeah.
That's that's
Yeah.
that's been a huge blessing on this end. Is, you mentioned our mutual context of the Crucible project is being able to step in those circles and have those men serve as mirrors and say, hey, look how far you did come.
Yeah.
Or even, being able to, we're blessed because we're in a team setting, as my wife is very involved in our ministry, and I'll relay something. She's, oh, I saw it this way, or and relaying feedback that I didn't even know, positive feedback that was out there, I didn't even know was there. it's having those folks around you, that maybe they can show you something that you can't see
Yeah,
right now about where you've been or where you are, and you're just so stuck on where you're going, you're stuck on that horizon. It's vital to take a breath with people, I found.
absolutely. Yeah. So that is just to hear a younger pastor wrestling with this should give other pastors hope, right? Because I'm almost certain we're speaking into the story of many people,
Sure.
and especially in ministry. But it's true in just about every leadership role we step into. Just about any leader, if they were really to sit down and tell the truth about what's going on in his or her heart, this this can come up. Who am I,
Mhm.
and what am I supposed to be doing? Uh,
Yeah.
and um, and then all the expectations that come with it. So you're about to
Mhm.
transition. How can you carry that empowering, equipping, fathering, and whatever else into your next role?
It sounds overly simplistic, but just doing it, it's and being intentionally doing it, like putting things on the calendar. Um, Even down to what I do now is I try not to go 48 hours without making a connection like this.
Yeah,
Because it's actually ironically very easy to just coast into big group stuff or working in the office or whatever. And so, man, putting those one-on-ones on the calendar, putting those little, camping trips or outings and stuff like that with the kids, um, making sure that those things are in place, because I can do the other stuff. I can be the do it all guy. Um, but it has to serve a purpose, and it's draining. And so just putting those practical things in place of boiling down, okay, what does this kind of man do, and what is doable in that, and that action reinforcing the identity fueling the action kind of thing. And so that's and I'm open to feedback on more than that,
yeah,
but that it's like, all right, maybe that's remnant still got to do something. Action
yeah,
that still needs to be filtered a little bit. But hey, I need to put myself in places where I can equip and empower, put myself into places where I can love on my sons in an exclusive way, not in a I love the group and you're in the group kind of thing. um, and just continuing, this has been helpful, is doing my own work and wrestling in safe places that aren't in my church.
yes, yep,
In this role, that's probably been the biggest thing, um and such a blessing of especially being here, not really having that authority, but also being 30 years old, taking on a role that I probably shouldn't have on paper. um Having other men that push, but also just I can just not be the guy for an hour.
yeah,
That's been vital. And so whatever the next chapter looks like, having those places, Lord willing, within, but if not, definitely outside of that church context.
for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned Crucible. Crucible is one of those areas after you've done an initial retreat where you can get engaged with a group where you can be the guy who's not in the lead, right?
Mm,
I'm sure there are other organizations. My own organization, Strong Leader Development, we offer groups for that very thing. The pastor can take the pastor hat off, be a man or a woman among the group, and
yeah,
just be able to talk through these things, get some reflection. That was the other piece you
yeah,
talked about. Have I? I wrote an article several years ago. Have I ever changed? Have I changed at all? Have I even changed at all? And
yeah,
this idea that your hair or your beard, you never see it growing, but you look up and you need a haircut or you need to shave. And oftentimes the only way to know have I grown is to get some reflection from people around me, not the expectations, but just yeah, I
yeah,
saw where you were, I see where you are now. and we don't get to see that in the middle. Then we're looking at, all right, what parts of these were identity and what parts of these were I'm going overboard. I'm going to an unhealthy space. So, but we offer those kinds of groups, and we offer coaching one to one. So, yeah, that's the thing that pastors don't always see. I've got to take this on myself, because if I admit that I need a space away from my church, I might lose my people, and
Yeah.
that wouldn't be good. And we hang
Well,
on to that rather than step
yeah.
into that work.
Yeah. Well, and and I want to acknowledge there's a big risk to all this.
There he is.
And the way I describe it around here is we have core parts of who we are, especially as men, is we have our relationships, our faith, and our vocation. And in this kind of role, man, those mix probably
Mhm.
more than in most other roles as a whole. And so, yeah, it's you're not just, man, I might make a boss frustrated, but it's like my faith context and community can be affected, as well as my family, as well as my relationships. And so, and maybe that's an encouragement for guys who are in the thick of it is, man, take the risk,
Yeah.
and and own that it is a risk. Don't minimize it. It's scary for a reason, because it's
Yeah.
scary. so there's that piece. But yeah, just wanted to throw that in there, because it does feel scary, and you're not crazy because it's scary.
Yeah, for sure. And it is a risk. It is a risk. And I think that's what happens. And I talked about in one of my just leadership talks, I talked about the pastor as narcissist, and how part of the reason is because of those expectations. And I don't want
Mm,
to shame myself. I don't want to let people down, so I got to stay up here. And then eventually it
yeah,
just beats you up, right? And so you either become very unhealthy as a tyrant, or you see pastors constantly breaking down and dropping, having a moral failure because of this very thing, right? So, yeah,
and no one wakes up one day and says, I'm going to blow up my life.
exactly.
Yeah, it's man, step into it now
Yep,
before you're thrown into it later.
absolutely.
um yeah, that's why I appreciate conversations like this. All right, I can keep this in front of me, and we can talk we can talk about it now, and September something might hit sideways, but keeping it in front,
Yep,
before it comes out sideways somewhere else, is huge.
absolutely. Well, I want to honor you because at 30, I wasn't thinking in terms of this. I always wanted to grow, but I was in that building where how can I be better? How can I be better? How can I be better? I was going up,
Mm,
right? I just kept going up and didn't realize I still got to go down. And down means I got to go find out who me is. And I want to be careful because there's this catchphrase of go find yourself, go discover yourself. And it's not
yeah,
that. It is underneath all this, who am I really? And am I living in it where I should be? Because I am
for sure.
God's and I'm in his kingdom and I'm going. So yeah, I'm just proud that your generation, there are many of you that are beginning to say, let me step into this early. Yep.
Well, I thank you for that, and I appreciate you and others that come alongside, because we have no clue what we're doing,
Yeah.
but we'll give it a shot. we'll we'll give it a shot, and I appreciate you stepping in and allying. It means a lot.
You bet. Well, thanks for joining us today. I think this has been very valuable for our listeners. And yeah, just so proud. And maybe we do this again. This has been fun today.
Thank you.
All right. Are you curious about how strong leader development can support your growth? Book a free discovery session with me, and I'll walk you through what it looks like and how I can help you in whatever fashion you need. I like to listen and hear what you have and design whatever works best for you. So reach out and book that free session